14 college football rivalry week. 4th-ranked Georgia taking on Georgia Tech. Noon Eastern, ABC. Jake Fromm has been hot since losing to South Carolina. So hot right now. 8 touchdowns, no picks over the last 5. Clemson taking on that same South Carolina squad, riding a 26-game win streak. Longest active in the FBS. You can see that noon Eastern on ESPN. It would not be rivalry week without the game. Ohio State has dominated recently. It's a rivalry, just not a close one. They've won 14 of the last 15 against Michigan. LSU's offense, unstoppable this season. Tigers 23 points away from becoming the 5th school in SEC history to score 350 points in conference play in a single season.
So, Randolph, I'm a little jealous. One, Game Day is visiting Minnesota for the first time ever, like forever, ever. And B, I don't like to be cold. However, I love to watch football in the snow. And it is supposed to snow today in Minnesota. Game Day, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN. Desmond Howard will be a part of that show. He's our show now. And it's time for his MVP. So a quick reminder, the M is for the matchup that he's most focused on. The V is for the most vulnerable team today. And the P is for the player to watch. Desmond, give me your M.
Okay, Nicole, well, the matchup that I'm looking forward to today is a little game in the Midwest we call the game, Ohio State versus Michigan. Focusing on Ohio State's offense now, Nicole, this group is #1 in the nation in scoring, averaging 49 points a game. And going up against the Don Brown defense that they undressed in Columbus a year ago. I call this Ryan Day versus Don Brown Part 2. I think this is going to be epic, so make sure you keep an eye on Ohio State's offense led by Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins against Michigan's defense. The vulnerable team just might be the team in the Iron Bowl called the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, they're favored in this game against Auburn, but they're starting a quarterback named Mac Jones, who doesn't have a lot of experience, going up against the best defense he's seen all year long. Now, he has a lot of weapons around him. He has Jerry Jeudy. He has Najee Harris, but this man's going to have to go up against a defensive front that's going to put pressure on him for 4 quarters. Alabama just might be vulnerable. And the player I want to keep an eye on, young man by the name of Tanner Morgan, the quarterback from Minnesota. All the talk is about Justin Fields, Ohio State's quarterback. He's having a fantastic season. But Tanner Morgan is quietly putting together a magical season himself. He leads the conference in passing yards per game at 243, and he's only thrown 5 interceptions on the season. If they beat Wisconsin today, he's going to go head-to-head, toe-to-toe in the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State and Justin Fields. Keep an eye on Tanner Morgan. That boy is playing fantastic football so far.
Minnesota has a chance to make a whole lot of noise, and I'm not just talking about during game day. I'm talking about the whole college football playoff scene. You can see Game Day, 9 a.m. Eastern from Minnesota right here on ESPN.
Far from done with college football, we got Mac Jones making his second start for the Tide, and Tim Tebow will give us the biggest challenge that the sophomore QB will face against Auburn. And rivalry week certainly in full swing already around college football. The trolling, the screaming, and the celebrations that are going to rev you up for today.
Sports Center AM, brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
All right, time for weather on the 5s on Sports Center AM. More like Minnesota, am I right? 3 to 5 inches expected. Forecast, snow. Temps, low to mid-30s. On the plus side, you got a 100% chance of Kirk Herbstreit in 15 minutes. Right now, we got Iowa, Nebraska. Rivalry week has already begun. Final seconds, 48 yards. Keith Duncan to win it. But wait a minute, Scott Frost is like, no, I called a timeout. Do it again. And he did. And this one looked dicey off the foot, but it curled in, split the uprights. He's going to wave and blow a kiss to the sideline.
Oh, no, he did not.
You churlish kicker. And you know what? It worked. You know what? I appreciate the moxie because he got a scholarship. He was awarded a scholarship after the game.
The 112th Apple Cup. Washington has won 6 straight Apple Cups against Washington State, 5 of them since Chris Peterson has been the head coach. And Jacob Eason's going to hand it off to Richard Newton, and that's a touchdown, and Washington's going to do it again. 7 straight Apple Cups, 31-13, the longest winning streak in the series since Washington won 8 before we were both born. And Mike Leach is not happy.
You know, and you run your mouth in your little column and stuff like some sanctimonious troll, and where, you know, you've never been fair or even-handed with us, so I really don't care what you think. Okay, go ahead, because you're going to write some nasty stuff anyway, like you always do. And I don't know which Coug way back when did something that offended you. And I really don't care about that either. But you can live your little meager life in your little hole and write nasty things, and if that makes you feel even, you go right ahead. Okay, next.
Does that make you feel big? Because it was definitely not the writers' fault that your team lost.
It doesn't make me feel pretty good. How about USF and UCF?
Oh, what is happening?
The game, yeah, there's a pregame festivities, some activities, right? So you got a minute left, first half, 21-0, UCF, and Dylan Gabriel to Adrian Killins Jr. And Killins, he stopped after running for about 3 yards, and the play just goes on. And now we're grabbing face mask. Killen grabs Nick Roberts' face mask, is pushed to the ground. Players and coaches from both teams are on the field, and it looks, coaches peacemaker activity, and then we're hyping up the crowd. How many? Okay, 5 flags and 2 hats. They throw the hats when they're out of flags. That's what we got. UCF, what they got is the win, 34-7.
Virginia Tech and Virginia. Look, Virginia has lost last 15 games against Virginia Tech. This goes back to 2003. But what is happening? A minute left in the game. Hendon Hooker is stripped of the ball by Mandy Alonso, and Eli Handback, who recovers it for a touchdown. And oh my, Virginia goes on to win it 39-30. Their first win since 2003. So Virginia is going to play the ACC Coastal. They're going to play Clemson.
So when you think about our goals, beat Tech, Coastal, yes sir. That's 2 of them. So we got the ACC championship. Congratulations.
We want you to break the rock.
Big deal.
Great is that? All right, Clemson has the edge, though, in the ACC championship game in a big way. They're top 5 in offensive, defensive, and total efficiency this season. The only edge that UVA has is on special teams. Cavaliers ranked 3rd. Tigers ranked 120th. Add it all up, Clemson a heavy favorite. How heavy? 93% chance to win.
The rivalries continue today. Auburn, Alabama, SEC Nation rolling into town along with the Tide. This will be the first time since 2011 where the winner of the Iron Bowl is not going to represent the West in the SEC championship game. But we do want to remind you of what happened in that 2011 season. Number 1, LSU. They beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, which set up a rematch with Alabama, who finished number 2 in the BCS standings. Alabama got revenge for its regular season loss by beating LSU 21-0 to claim the national title. I just have a feeling that Tide fans are hoping for a repeat of all of that this season. Good morning, Tim Tebow. Look, there's a lot that's different for Alabama right now because Mac Jones is making the biggest start of his career today, taking on Auburn. So what is the biggest challenge that he's going to face today?
Well, I think you got to start with the big boys up front. That's this defensive line at Auburn. I think they're the best in the country, specifically Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson. These 2 players have won 7 defensive linemen of the award of this year already. That's insane. They've won 7 defensive linemen of the week this year. That is absolutely insane. But the one thing that Auburn does that could help a young quarterback in Mac Jones, they play man-to-man coverage. Guess what? When you're a young quarterback, you don't want to see a bunch of fancy zones because now I got to make a lot of decisions and I got to sit in the pocket and read it. But when they're playing man-to-man coverage, now I find my best matchup. And against Alabama, you have a lot of good matchups. You have Jerry Jeudy, you have Henry Ruggs, you have all these great receivers. You can find a good matchup, and I think that could really help Alabama.
He's played Western Carolina and Arkansas, but this is also his first start on the road.
Yeah, those aren't the same.
No,
a little bit different.
Definitely not the same. Number 4, Georgia, doesn't have a whole lot of room for error over the next couple of weeks. But here's the thing. Now they're going to be without their leading receiver in Lawrence Cager because he hurt his ankle this week in practice. How significant of an injury is this for Georgia?
I think it's drastic. I think the number one problem they've had this year is they haven't really had receivers that could separate, and they haven't been able to do it in big-time games. I think that's really hurt the offense. They got a great offensive line. They got a great quarterback. They got a great running game. You don't have receivers that can win man-to-man coverage, and now you lost by far your best receiver in Cager. So this is where someone's going to have to step up. If Georgia's going to win the SEC championship and contend for a national championship, George Pickens, Blaylock, Robertson, they have to step up and be that guy. There's still a chance for them because their defense is also one of the best in the country, just like Auburn is right here.
They have a chance, at least today, to test the waters without him because it's Georgia Tech. But keep in mind, they have a date with LSU in the SEC championship game that is next Saturday on December the 7th. Good day, sir.
All right, let's go college hoops now. Let's go to the Bahamas.
Please.
I want to go to there. This is the championship game of the Battle for Atlantis. Juwan Howard and the Wolverines unranked. Sort of an afterthought coming into this tournament. It was a loaded field and trying to beat their second AP top 10 team in 24 hours, and they do. They take down Gonzaga for the title, and they dance like everybody's watching. Juwan Howard said, I'm sure we're on the map now.
Same tournament, but this is playing for third. Oregon and North Carolina. First half, UNC was up 44-36. Shifter Juicing goes up. No. Cole Anthony, sit down. There's a bit of a height difference there, but it works in the opposite way.
There you go.
Because Juicing's got it by several inches. Second half, time running down. Oregon down by 3. Peyton Pritchard, a chance, but is off the mark. So North Carolina holds on to win. They finish third in the battle for Atlantis. 78-74 the win over Oregon.
Back to college football when we come back. Kirk Herbstreit joining us live from Minneapolis. Can the Gophers make the playoff?